How are we all doing? All good? Excellent. Right, okay. So let me I've got some notes here because it's quite a big topic tonight and I've got lots to cover. Lots and lots to cover. All right, cool. So the main thing, well, tonight, welcome to the marketing section. Module 4, this is module 4. So module 4 has opened up now in the Blab Academy site, so you can go in there and access the training videos. I will be referring to those videos throughout. So, you know, obviously they're really important because they're the ones that contain the frameworks for the effective marketing post that you can kind of scatter around. But I wanted to structure this. I wanted to give you a bit of kind of the why behind the what. So why we're doing what we're doing and what makes some of these activities really important. So a bit of kind of psychology of marketing. The fact that we are all women in here, marketing mainly to women is good because I'm looking at sort of a lot of the triggers for females, for the woman's brain, which is really important to understand as well. And then we'll be looking at kind of some of the frameworks then and how you can tap into some psychological triggers that will really be impactful in your marketing. So I just wanted to quickly ask, just by show of hands, have you been in Amazon and found some bestseller book titles? Yeah, you have. Awesome. Okay, cool. So the reason why I've asked you to do that will come clear in just a second. So I'm really pleased you've done that. All right. So the obvious point right now, you know, as we move into the marketing piece, and this is just really a reminder, is you must know your ideal client avatar. Like, really know who she is by this point. You've crafted your offer, you've got your, you know, 3 levels of offer that will meet her where she's at whatever stage of the journey is she's at, but also knowing her pains, her frustrations, how she wants to feel and how she'll feel as a result of working with you. So having all of that really nailed down will really come into its own at this point. And I know that for a lot of people, maybe not for you now, because you've kind of been going through this process and trusting the process and doing the work, a lot of the time it can feel counterintuitive to really funnel down to one specific avatar. And I know that can feel counterintuitive to a lot of people, but it's just, and I think we spoke about this maybe last week in response to Simona's question, I think it was. Let me just mute Monica. That when we're showing up, having that one specific ideal client avatar, the reason we do that is purely for your marketing, so that you write to her and you focus on her with every piece of communication. That's what makes your messaging so impactful. You just write to her. And as I said, you know, when your marketing is focusing on different age ranges, for example, a woman in her 30s has different priorities, different needs, different triggers to a woman in her 50s, for example. So you've got to make your decision. What age is she? Same with gender. You've got to know, and for most of you here, you know you're working with women, but for your marketing, you've got to know, is she a woman, is she not? Because again, you're using specific triggers that will attract the female buying brain over the male buying brain. So if you're trying to throw blanket messaging out there, you'll be missing a lot of tricks, really. The other thing about being so specific in your marketing and your ideal client avatar is that you will attract more people. I know you think, well, that's counterintuitive, doesn't make sense. Surely by focusing on one person, I'm actually going to be missing out on a boatload of potential clients who are just going to walk past my shop because they don't think I'm for them. Well, actually, people are smart. Give people the benefit of the doubt. They will see in your impactful messaging elements of their problem. They will know that you can help them when you're consistent and repetitive. So I just kind of want to say that really as a basis for the work we'll be doing in these next couple of weeks, is know who you're serving, know your ideal client with real precision specificity. Knowing that it doesn't have to be forever. Your ideal client will evolve. As you evolve and as you grow, your ideal client will grow with you. If you want it to. It doesn't have to, but again, you're being specific for now. Okay, so let's have a quick evolutionary psychology masterclass. So, you know, our brains, obviously, they've evolved. However, essentially, our brains are still quite similar to the brain of the Homo sapiens. So 100,000 years ago, the Homo sapiens spent their days running around, hunting mammoths, you know, clashing with hostile neighbors, running across the savannah, hiding from prey. That was their lifestyle. And survival depended on avoiding hostile tribes and defending against dangerous prey. So that's been the way of life for thousands of years. And so as a result of that, there are some very specific learned behaviors around survival that have been ingrained as instinct. So we now call it human nature. And of course, in order to survive, human beings, being relatively slow and weak compared to the prey, we had to use our unique brains to develop like a gamut of secret weapons. So first thing we learned to do was we learned to use our hands and use fine hand movements that allowed us to refine tools and weapons. So we became really efficient at hunting and defending. Our trachea also descended into our throat, making vocalizations more distinct and communication more effective. And we honed and increased the importance with an evolving social system. So we learned to cooperate with one another, and we learned to determine friend from foe, and we learned to predict what someone will do. Now, life obviously now is very, very different, but our instincts are not. So we have evolved to be more cooperative with members of our own tribe, and actually we are still innately more hostile towards members of kind of the unknown clan. So even 100,000 years ago we still are. So this is why it's really relevant to your business and why we talk about getting really visible. Because being visible works with our human nature, not against it. So what we're actually doing throughout kind of the strategy with our inbound marketing and content marketing is we're harnessing the power of familiarity. So there's a social psychologist by the name of Dr. Elliot Aronson, and I'm going to quote him. He wrote a book called The Social Animal. And a quote that I really like that is so relevant to us today in business is, all other things being equal, the more familiar an item is, the more attractive it is. People prefer faces that they've seen 10 times to equally attractive faces that they've only seen 5 times. So what this is called, this notion of when we're being exposed to a message repeatedly, is priming. So it's rather like, you know, if you've read Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, you'll know about auto-suggestion. Well, it's kind of like that. We naturally start to believe and trust that which becomes familiar. So that's priming. The higher the exposure, the deeper the trust. So this is why we talk about showing up, just get really visible. And I remember, I think I mentioned this a while ago, hearing another coach when somebody asked her, you know, how often should I post? And she said, well, how hungry are you? And I just thought that's the perfect answer, because it's, you know, egos aside, this is about you being really visible, priming your audience so that they know, like, and trust you. Your face becomes a fixture in their newsfeed. So that's the first kind of thing I want to say is step number one really as to why we do what we do in terms of the visibility strategy. We are priming our audience. We're building that deeper trust because of the higher exposure. We become familiar to our audience. The other way to use priming for your marketing messages, your content, is that you can prime your audience to associate you with specific feelings. So obviously we want those feelings to be good feelings, optimistic feelings, upbeat feelings. So we can do that by putting specific, using our communication and having specific sort of positive emotions. So examples would be if you were using putting headlines in your copy or the first words in your copy, and what the thing you're focused on, you want it to be positive. So things like using the word success, win, celebrate, joy, affordable, future. So these are all very positive, optimistic, upbeat words, rather than expensive, lose, fail, competition. So you might, if you were writing a post about being better than the competition, you might use the words winning, cross the finish line, versus beat the competition. Does that make sense? It's really winning, cross that finishing line is really upbeat, it's positive, it's centered on that one person. Oh, Christine, your dog is making my it's so cute. It's looking really engrossed in this topic. Oh, how sweet, those eyes. So yeah, instead of beat the competition, which kind of has a negative connotation. Also things like, even though you're helping your clients perhaps overcome their fear, you want to look at why is it important for them to overcome their fear. So you might write, achieve your goals, instead of overcome your fears as a reason to work with you. So, it's just very subtle, but you're focusing on priming your audience so that as they read your copy, it makes them feel good, it uplifts them, it inspires them. And so that's really important, because without that, you're actually potentially priming them to have a negative association with you and your brand. And there was an experiment that was conducted with a group of students. So a group of students was split into two groups, and one group of students, the first group, was exposed to words such as rude, disturb, intrude, obnoxious, infringe, aggravate. And then the second group of students were exposed to words such as respect, honor, considerate, patiently, graciously, sensitively, and polite. And then each student was tasked to go out and go into the hallway and fetch their professor, who was in the hallway engrossed in an important conversation with a colleague. The first group, who were exposed to those really negative words, were more likely to interrupt rudely. So we're affected by the words that we're exposed to, and you don't want to prime your audience to have a negative association with you and your messaging and your brand. So that's priming. So this is why we talk about just get out there, get visible, have your, be seen on camera is so important. Some of you have been doing the challenge in Eve's group, which has been amazing. So that's just getting you really comfortable with showing up and just sharing your story and being you. Very, very important. The second thing around your marketing, your content creation, is establishing yourself as a leader and an authority. This is really important as well for building trust. People want to see you as an expert and authority in your field. They will, if they want to believe that you are an authority in your field before they will follow you, before they'll invest in you. And I did my degree's in psychology, but years ago I did a study on this, and I can't believe how kind of related it is now, but I did a study on this social psychologist called Stanley Milgram, in the 1960s. And I was absolutely, it was quite scary really, this particular experiment. But they were getting random volunteers off the street to take part in an experiment where they were brought into a scientific setting, and they were asked to administer an electric shock to someone sitting in the other room that was separated by a glass screen. Does anyone know this experiment? Yeah, Lorraine, I thought you were nodding. So this complete randomer off the street was given some money to partake in this experiment. So they were paid to do it. And they had a board with a button on it, and they had to ask like a general knowledge question. And the person behind the glass was all wired up with their fingers, and every time they got the answer wrong, the volunteer had to press a button to administer an electric shock. And every question the shock got stronger, so the voltage was increased with every single question they got wrong. Now obviously the guy behind the screen was an actor, so he was pretending to get shocks, so he wasn't really, but the voltage was getting higher and more dangerous, and the actor was screaming. And the poor volunteers, they were sweating, some of them broke down in tears, but because there was a guy like this, there was a scientist, not a scientist, an experimenter pretending to be a scientist, had a white coat and a clipboard. But he was just a guy. He was not qualified. He was not a scientist, but he kept just nodding, not saying a word. But every time the volunteer was looking at him going, please, please, I can't do this anymore, the scientist would just say, continue. And so these people, it's like this almost unquestioning obedience. But that's the reason I share that is that's the power and the influence that people of authority have, or perceived authority have. So whilst you're not going to be asking people to administer excuse me, electric shocks, obviously you want to stand out as authority because people trust that. They want to be guided by, they want to invest in somebody that they believe in, that's somebody who is the solution. So how can you leverage your authority as an expert? Well, the simple way is to teach. Teach what you know. Give a ton of value. You can write articles and blogs on your website about your topic of expertise. Just write articles and share them across different social media. You can appear as a guest expert, even seek out other Facebook groups where your audience are hanging out, and if the host of the group is a similar kind of audience to you but just a different message or a different offering, you can message them and say, look, I love your audience, I have this value I want to give to them, can I be a guest expert, or would you like to interview me, and we'll give a value to your audience. So you can be a guest expert in that way. You can be a guest expert on a podcast, seek out those podcasts that serve your audience, and then contact the host of the podcast, get published and featured. I used to think this was the hardest thing in the world, to just get featured and published, and it really isn't. You just need to write an article and submit it. Any publication has a section on the website about how to submit an article. It contains the details of the editor you need to submit your article to. So the more you can do things like that, and you put the trust stamps on your website, you can put the trust stamps on your banners on your LinkedIn profile, your Facebook profile, all of that contributes to that standing out as an expert in your field. So it's the possibilities for standing out as an expert are endless really, but it's about you putting yourself out there and teaching and sharing what you know. So the third thing, we've got priming, being really visible. Second thing is showing up and leveraging your expertise, showing up as a leader. So another way, just to go back, just before I forget, showing up as a leader, own your own Facebook, set up your own Facebook group. and start showing up as a leader in that Facebook group. That's another very, very quick and simple way to leverage your authority and your leadership. Okay, so the third main aspect here is earn trust of your audience by actually not selling to them. So the old way of marketing is what we called interruption marketing. So interruption marketing is basically exactly what it says on the tin. You know, we've got pop-up ads, you know, on Google, advertisements in magazines, billboards, TV, Facebook ads. All of that it's interruption marketing. But why that no longer works is that our brains associate those types of communication with advertising and marketing. So we know instantly that we're going to be sold to. And so actually what we do is we tune that stuff out. So interruption marketing just doesn't work in this modern digital age with social media anymore. We've learned to tune it out because it's just, you know, we know what we're going to expect. We know what's happening. The other thing that's quite interesting about interruption marketing that we all end up falling into the trap of, especially with Facebook ads, is priming. We've been primed. We assume that ads must work because, remember, our belief and trust in something is influenced by how often we see it. Well, our brain has seen those interrupting ads so often, we just assume they must work. And so you think, you know, if only I could come up with the right message and the right copy for my ad, people will see how great I am and they will hire me. And so when it doesn't work, you think that ads don't work for you. And that's not the problem. The problem is the approach, because you haven't built and earned trust. So this is why the most successful ad campaigns on Facebook that you'll see are those that drive people to some genuine value. So I've just joined a 5-day LinkedIn challenge. I don't know if Helen Pritchard. So that she's put a Facebook ad out there. It landed in my feed. I know Helen Pritchard anyway from other things that I've been in. So I immediately joined because I know that I'm going to get value. But that's really clever because she's going to give a ton of value over 5 days, but it's going to make me want more. And I've built and I've learned that she's an expert. She's earned my trust. And so it's the same with when you sign up to webinars. All of that is about building trust. So it's very, you know, interruption marketing won't work if it's just, here I am, buy my stuff. You've got to teach. You've got to show up and share value. You've got to teach people what you know, and that will leverage your expertise. Making sense so far? Yeah. Okay, just going to grab a drink. Cool. Okay. So when you're anything like that, if you're doing ads, get help if you've never done them before. You know, I wouldn't tackle them alone. But yeah, you've got to ensure that your ads are a trust building exercise, so you can sell at the end of your webinar, and I'm sure Helen's going to pitch something at the end of a 5-day challenge, but by then she's going to have a really warm lead base, a really warm audience. Okay, so something else that I talk about quite a lot is, you know, as you're doing all this marketing and showing up, and I want you to have fun doing it, you're enjoying yourself, you're doing it because you want to contribute, you love talking about the shit you love talking about, so talk about it. So as you're doing all of that and you're coming out with this great energy and you're feeling really inspired and creative, you're sharing your stuff and being prolifically visible. And so there have been multiple studies recently that have shown that 70% of the buying decision is made before the prospect talks to the company. So these are for all sorts of businesses. They've done this research, so many different businesses, because of the nature of the internet now. people Google questions. People Google, how much is this? You know, where's the best place I can buy that? And they will research even before they've left their front door. So by the time they pick up the phone to the company, or by the time they go to the store, they're 70% done. The buying decision is 70% done. So, you know, and that's the power of the internet that enables us to ask questions. There's a really good book that I recommend called They Ask and You Answer by Marcus Sheridan. This, can you see that? They Ask, You Answer, Inbound Sales, Content Marketing. Marcus Sheridan. Now, this book is very much business to business. However, I really enjoyed reading. I found it really inspirational because the whole policy of They Ask, You Answer is just transparency, you know, answering questions. Think about all your questions that your ideal client has, all the things that she wants to know, what's going through her mind, what frustrates her. When you answer those questions and plug the answers in your website every day as a new blog, plus on social media, then you will build that trust and know, like, and trust. So Christine, do you use Facebook adverts? I have, yes, I've used Facebook ads quite a lot. I've had really good success with some and nothing from others. And so, yeah, but I do have somebody I can recommend, an amazing girl who really knows her stuff when it comes to Facebook ads, but I would never tackle them alone. I just think they are an absolute beast to try and figure out. So I would work on finding somebody to do them for you, and I can recommend my lady to do it. And Lorraine, you're on Helen's channel, are you? Excellent. Yeah, I mean, I've really enjoyed it so far. I think she's quite a character. So we'll see how it unfolds. But yeah, I'm keen to learn about LinkedIn because most of my stuff has always been on Facebook. Okay, so yeah, so They Ask and You Answer by Marcus Sheridan is like the perfect book to understand inbound sales and content marketing for businesses. And it's in there that I saw the stat about 70% of the buying decision is made before the prospect contacts the company. But I actually imagine for coaching, I reckon it's higher than 70%, because the buying decision, you know, it's due to the nature of the service that, you know, people follow you as coaches, they're watching you, they're learning from you. It's such a personal service, it's a personal decision. You know, you can have two coaches offering very similar services, and one resonates with the prospect and the other one just doesn't. So it's a very personal decision. But, you know, from the They Ask, You Answer philosophy, the power of transparency, honesty, and seeing yourself as the teacher is what's really important here. So just, you know, see yourself as a teacher with all of your content when you put it out there. Does anyone worry, just as an aside, does anyone worry about potentially giving too much, and then the prospect might think, well, I don't need to buy you now, I don't need to hire you now because you've given me everything I need? Does anyone have that kind of worry? Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Okay. So what I would say to that is, if you were to think about how you're putting your content out there, you're drip feeding your content. You know, you're not going to put everything you know out in one big block. You're, you know, so for example, if I had, you know, a week's worth of content that I wanted to create, and I might just do a couple of posts about niche and ideal client, and then some other stuff, and then 2 weeks later, oh, let's talk about how to craft a coaching program. It's so displaced, and, you know, there's no consistency. So it's very difficult to get the full picture when you're just following content like that. The other thing is, people don't value your information as much as you do, possibly, as in it's free. So people might go, oh my God, that was so good. I really loved that training. I really loved that. And they'll save it in their file, but they don't value it because they've not put any money in. There's no skin in the game. So people very rarely take what you've given for free and go run with it and have an amazing result. If they do, then job done for you. You're here to really go out there and make a difference in the lives of people. So if 5% of those people have gone away and used your free content and had amazing results, then that's wonderful. But I guarantee there'll be 90% who are still stuck because they're in their own heads. There is nothing that replaces the value of, contact, giving people that space to reflect and open up. Nothing replaces, I think, the power of actually coaching somebody. So yeah, there's the lack of value because it's free. There's the disjointed, they're not getting the full picture, and also nothing is as powerful as just holding that space for someone in a coaching session. So in answer to that, I would just say, put your stuff out there freely without having that reservation. Okay, so I'm just going to let me just open up because I'm going to dive into the content and copy and Amazon and all of that. But let me just kind of pause for a second. Does anyone have any questions on anything I've said?
I have a question, Sanai.
Oh, okay.
So you were saying that you were talking about the free challenges and webinars and that because they build trust.
Yeah.
Should we all be doing it? Free stuff like free challenges and webinars before we try to sell anything to anyone?
It's a strategy. So when you say before you try to sell anything, what do you mean?
So let's say I have this program that I want
Yeah.
to launch. Before I announce it's here, it's for sale, you can buy it. Should I be doing something for free first?
Well, you're already doing stuff for free, aren't you? That's what you're doing all the time.
Okay, so me coming and doing the videos every week, it's already
that's you kind of having a long game. But if you were launching something or you were having a launch, you had a new program, you want to fill it, you want to get as many people in, or you want to get so many discovery calls, then do your webinar or your free challenge. Some people just do a free challenge to fill their group, so there's no sale at the end of it. It depends on what you want to get. So it's a part of a strategy. It's not kind of the be all and end all. So if you were to say you looked at your 2020 calendar and you thought, right, I'm going to do 3 big launches of my group program. And so you might then plan in, well, for that 6 weeks before the start of my group program, I'm going to be doing a launch. And in that launch, I'm going to do some webinars or I'm going to do a group program. So you ramp up your activity prior to a launch.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just part of a strategy. But your daily showing up will start to reap the rewards of people reaching out to you one-on-one.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
As well,
I think so, yeah.
Something that relates to what Simone is saying. So I was going to put something on for Black Friday, my first group course. Do you think it would be better to postpone that and do a 5-day run up rather than just jumping in on Friday with this group course? I guess it's just what to do, but your opinion.
Yeah, well, Black Friday is Black Friday, so I would put something out there for Black Friday and just take advantage.
Okay.
The nice thing with Black Friday, what I would suggest, I think, was it Simona we were talking about this, to do a bundle. Bundle up your services. So if you could do, like, if you've got a DIY, if you've got a group program, or bundle it up with your one-on-one, so it's a and really slash the price of 70% off or something like that to make it a Black Friday offer. But bundles do really well at Black Friday in the coaching industry.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, I mean, I would put it out there, and you never know, see what happens. But the long game is including these sorts of things as strategy, and especially if you are using Facebook ads. I think that was kind of the point I was making. If you're going to use Facebook ads, you've got to have something where you're going to be leveraging your authority rather than a Facebook ad directly to buy me, because people just hate that. And especially, you know, social media is social media. It's a place to foster relationships and connections. So Sophia, yeah, create the buzz beforehand. That's really important when you're doing a launch, having a bit of a buzz. So even if, you know, you're thinking about, right, tomorrow I've got Black Friday on Friday, Cyber Monday, maybe start tomorrow saying really excited about the Black Friday offer I'm launching. Even though it's just 2 days, it's just a quick hit. Any other questions so far?
Sorry, Sanai. So you would advise not to put out Facebook ads that say buy from me, you know, buy this course?
No. People hate that, and it kind of goes against what Sophia's saying. No.
So okay, can I just put in quickly?
Yeah, please.
So with the Facebook ads, it's all a strategy. When you start with Facebook ads, you're going to create awareness around your business, and they are awareness ads, so that people and the followers of your page, right? They can see your business, and they can start seeing more and more of your business. And I've got lost in my thoughts now. Sorry, wait a minute. So on the ads manager in Facebook, you can just create awareness ads, and those ones don't have any call to action. An awareness ad would be like a video that you've done, right? That you're talking about your clothes or clothing and stuff like that, or an event or something like that, right? But it doesn't have any call to action, right? Those ads is just to build awareness of your business. Competing against a lot of ads there, right? And then you can start building up different ads. There's all sorts of ads. There's a specific event. There is.
You're breaking up a bit, Sophia.
I'm breaking up. Yeah, the kids are in it.
Oh, well, I think
So
the point is that it's not, you're not using Facebook ads as interruption marketing, which is direct selling. You are using it to build up trust. So you're going to do something on the back of an ad that builds up a relationship. And that's what will, and
Yes.
So as Sophia was saying, there's so many different types of ads, and that's why it gets really complicated. And you want to hire somebody who knows what they're doing at the back end, because you know you do.
You've got ads for lead You've got ads for lead generation.
Yeah. So it's confusing.
Yeah, and also you have to have certain things in place before you actually create your ads. You have to have a landing page, you have to have an opt-in, you have, you always have to have a call to action in mind for those ads, the lead generation ads that are going down your funnel and into a sale.
Yeah, so I'm going to stop you there because we're starting to stray off topic. So right now I would say, Simona, lift your head up. Don't get overwhelmed with that. It's not necessary. I did not use Facebook ads and I had a 6-figure year. Do not need Facebook ads to get to make a ton of money in your business. I promise you.
So you just literally on the Black Friday, you just come live on your page and say, look, this is what I have. Get in touch with me. Yeah. And that's it.
Yeah, DM me and put, some Canva posts out there. Don't be attached. If nothing happens, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But as I was saying to you, I think this was our conversation. You're creating as well a compound effect. Compound. So even if you put an offer out there and to you it's tumbleweeds and you want to rip your heart out and throw yourself on the floor, it just feels like the biggest rejection. What you're not realizing is that it's compounding in your audience's mind. They're seeing that you have stuff to sell. Oh, she's coaching. Oh, that looks good. But they're just not ready to buy. And then the penny might drop 7 days later, and then they come and buy. So it's about really staying firm, knowing that everything you put out there is making a difference and it's garnering momentum.
Yeah.
But do not get overwhelmed and sucked into Facebook ads, right? You do not need them for your business to succeed.
Actually relieved, because I was thinking after this call I have to stay up and do a really, really good ad. But now it's like, oh, okay then.
No, do not waste your time. Please don't waste your time. Facebook ads will come into you, but I didn't do a Facebook ad until probably year 3 of my business. And, you know, and even then it didn't freaking work. So it was only until I kind of year 4 and I just outsourced it. And, you know, so please, please, please don't worry about Facebook ads. It's just a whole other beast that you can outsource when you're making them.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so let's look at content, copy, and messaging. So yeah, there's a lot to share, and I want you to go into the Blab Academy and watch kind of the frameworks that I share in terms of, you know, how to structure some posts and story posts. So I just want to, I don't know if you saw my quick video yesterday, I posted it in LinkedIn and Facebook, but I was talking about your brain again. I love talking about your brain, but your brain is actually, metabolically speaking, the most expensive organ to operate. So it represents approximately 3% of your total body weight, and yet it consumes on average 20% of your energy. So glucose, blood, oxygen, compared to any other organ, any other part of your body, your brain is the most kind of metabolically high functioning and most expensive. So when it comes to, why is this relevant? When it comes to your copy, one of the most important things for your brain is ease of processing. So ease of processing of information to your brain is really important, especially in this fast-paced world we live in, especially we're in the online space and social media. You know, obviously if we need to focus and concentrate and get on with a task, then our brain switches on. But when it comes to social media, blogs, vlogs, you know, articles, they have to be value-packed, but really easy to process, really easy for the brain to process. If you've written a complicated post, or somebody's written a complicated article that requires some cognitive resource in order to be able to understand it, your brain will actually ignore it. It is fact. I think there's a book called Don't Make Me Think, which is all about marketing and website copy. I can't think who it's by now, but Don't Make Me Think was written by a marketing guru, and that's exactly kind of what we're trying to get with our marketing. We want everything to have ease, so our brain is attracted to it. You think about Apple, the Zen-like white packaging of Apple. I always think of Simona when I think of the Pandora, the beautiful Pandora box. It's just clean, it's simple, clean lines. That really appeals to our brains. So when you're thinking about your copy, lots of white space. I need to be able to breathe. Don't shout at me. So it's really just clean lines, beautiful pictures, simplicity. When you're writing a post for social media, loads of breaks, no chunks of a paragraph, 5 lines max. You see some posts and they're long, and you think the topic is interesting and I do actually want to read it, but I can't because my eyes are going cross-eyed trying to decipher the words from a big chunk. So cut your sentences right down. You know, you're writing for 7-year-olds. Cut your sentences right down, and massive gaps. 1 line, 2 spaces, 1 line, 2 spaces, doesn't matter, but it's got to be just so easy for the brain to process for your audience. So what this means for your copy on your website and your posts, your images, your graphics: simple and spacious, think breathable, keep it clean. And, you know, when you think about doing all of those things, loads of spaces and clean and breathy, you know, in this overcrowded world of social media, you're actually offering a breath of fresh air. Your stuff is just, oh, I want to read that, because it's a break from all these big chunky posts that just are all crammed in. So whilst it's, you know, it's true that simple puzzles attract and intrigue the brain, if the puzzle requires more than a few seconds to resolve, then the brain will give up and reject the message. Which, again, when we think about priming, if your audience's brain rejects a message from you often enough, then you risk the brain prejudicing against your brand. So that's negative priming. So you really want to just be so conscious of how you're keeping your post consistently clean and breathable. This is a message there. So Monica's had to go. Okay, that's fine. Bless her. Okay, so the other point with your content and your posts and your copy, the human brain, you probably have heard this a million times, but the human brain at its core is emotional. So we have to be engaged emotionally in order to best remember and act upon a message that we read and see. So you think about certain situations that you remember, like, I don't know, 9/11, for example, Princess Diana's death. I remember literally the room I was in, word for word, the conversation that took place when we turned on the news and it was announced that Princess Diana was in an accident. We just latch on to situations that are emotional. We engage with it, we remember it, it attracts and appeals to us. So this is why it's really important to focus your messaging heavily on the emotional impact. So remember, we talked earlier, right at the beginning, niche and ideal client. How do I want my people to feel as a result of working with me, and the payoffs of working with me? When you connect on a visceral cellular level with how it feels, how she's going to feel, then, and you keep that in mind and you use that in your content, you've got to, that's so, I cannot underestimate how powerful it is. I can't emphasize how powerful it is, should I say. So you've got to think about what are the key emotional triggers that your payoffs inspire. So a few kind of advertising examples. I always remember the chocolate advert. There's Galaxy, where she has like this secret box under the bed, and she gets the Galaxy and she sinks into her chaise longue, and it's like, that's nothing to do with chocolate, but it inspires such an emotion of like, all this, luxury and a treat, and it's her secret guilty pleasure. And then the Flake advert, where she's kind of roaming through a meadow and running her fingers through the plants, and so it's really, it's so emotive and inspires emotion that is a payoff of eating a flake. Believe it or not. But that's kind of the emotional triggers that these companies are inspiring, I guess. So you really want to connect to that. How will it feel, and what will she be able to do as a result of working with you? So a quick exercise that you can do for yourself when you're thinking about, okay, so this is the outcome that I get from my client, and then you say the outcome, and then you say, which means that. Probably heard me share this before, but which means that she will be able to do this, this, and this. Which means that she'll feel like this. Which means that her family will get this benefit. So, for example, I had a client who worked in corporate. She was she helped corporate clients, teams, communicate more effectively with each other and resolve disputes. And so when we looked at, right, what does that mean? She said, which means that the teams are communicating more effectively, which means that they're happier, they are, they're getting on with each other better, the work environment is happier, which means that, well, the customers get a better service because they're actually smiling when they're on the phone or smiling when clients walk into the office, which means that the customers get a better impression, they're more likely to buy more, they're more likely to give repeat business, they get better service, which means that more profit for the company. So you start to see every time you get which means that, you get a deeper level of, right, even more impact. So you're looking at the ripple effect of your service. So which means that is just a really nice kind of exercise to take yourself through to get all of those payoffs of working with you really nailed on. Okay, so neuromarketing, there is a whole wing, a branch called neuromarketing, and neuromarketing research tells us that about kind of the female brain and how the female brain is actually hardwired to seek out community. So this is important for all of you guys and me who are marketing specifically to women. We're hardwired to seek out community. So what that means is we find very appealing pictures, positive images of women enjoying shared activity. So even if it's like clinking glasses in a bar, or there's a lovely picture I really like of 3 women round a table with laptops and phones and they're laughing in a coffee shop. So those kind of things actually have a really deep subconscious positive message. So if you have groups of women having a good time laughing together in some of your marketing, that speaks to women. We're hardwired to want community and connection. Women, particularly mothers, are, we know this, supremely skilled at empathic skills. So we worry about others, and we know often what they're feeling and what they need. So when we see somebody who's upset or down, we empathically know what they want and what they need. And so we use these empathic skills to foster community. And so that's important again for you when you're thinking about your marketing. Faces appeal to women in marketing. It's been research that direct eye contact appeals to women. Women cannot take their eyes off babies. So whether that's relevant to your marketing might not be, but women are so drawn to a baby's face. So if you want to have like an impactful image, then a baby's face really works well. So if that's relevant for any of you, I don't know, but it's just that's what we are drawn to. But this is why I think women are very drawn to video marketing. It works especially well because you're getting direct eye contact with your audience. Images of you smiling into the camera, eye contact with the camera, that's going to appeal to women. So it's this inbuilt subconscious desire for connection. Okay, so let me just okay, there's just something I want to share as well about the female brain, which you will all resonate with. The female brain is very, very clever at juggling tasks and enjoys actually juggling tasks, emotions, and logical input and to-do lists. So the female brain is very adept at doing that. We have a really strong connection between our left and right brain hemisphere, which means although I say, and a lot of people say we're not built for multitasking, our brains are actually very good at storing multiple bits of information. Just, it's not good for when we're trying to work and focus, but actually that's the female brain is very adept at having lots and lots of pieces of information all at the same time. Men aren't. They say when a man is reading a newspaper, he literally cannot hear you. You can be shouting, I need you to get something, and he can't hear you because he's focused on the newspaper. And that's because he's built for one single-minded, focused hunting. Whereas women, we have a peripheral vision, because 100,000 years ago, when we lived in caves, we were responsible for gathering up the babies, you know, the toddlers rolling around everywhere. We had to keep an eye on making sure they were safe. If any predators came close to the entrance to the cave, we would immediately gather all of the children and get them safe. So we had to have very keen peripheral vision. We had to have all our senses switched on more than a man. So that's why we have this brain built to juggle lots of tasks. You can have your baby on your hip, you could be cooking your dinner, using the phone, and, you know, sorting the dog out all at the same time. Can't imagine a man doing that. And it's not sexist, it's just the way our brains are built. Oh, Merelda, what is the start of the statement? Oh, sorry, Merelda, what statement was that? Sorry, hon.
The one, I'm sorry, it was the one that's which means that. I didn't know what the start of it was.
Oh, it's simply the payoff. So the first one payoff that your client will get from working with you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, no worries. Sorry, I didn't see that at the time. So yeah, so we do have this ability to juggle all this information and tasks. So when it comes to your content, there are 3 specific pieces of content material that really will capture a female brain's attention really, really powerfully. The first one is any information that makes her life or job easier. So if you can say, you know, you're going to help her make her life easier or make her job easier in some way, you will attract her attention. You know, seal it bang and the job is done. One squirt and you're clean as a clean bathroom, whatever. But it's whatever makes her life easier, her job easier. So think about, I must admit, I'm always drawn to things like, you know, being organized, posts about being organized, posts about being, you know, in control, on top of things, because, you know, I can get quite disorganized and scattered. So anything that talks about filing systems and systems in general appeal to me, because I think, well, that's what I need to make my life easier. The second piece of information that attracts the female brain's attention is material that celebrates her individuality. So, you know, we talk about, you know, your ideal client having a divine, unique gift that she can bestow on the world. You know, that's very appealing to the female brain. If she has a unique style, when you talk about you have a unique style, let's draw out your unique soul's purpose, or what's your soul's calling. That drives and speaks to your ideal client's sense of uniqueness and desire to be individual. And then if you know, when I think about the example from the marketing world, the Dove adverts are beautiful. They totally speak to women's individuality because they celebrate the body in all its form, all shapes and sizes. So the Dove advert does that, speaks to women's uniqueness and individuality and celebrates that uniqueness. So if you can create content that has a bit of that in it sprinkled throughout, then that's going to attract attention as well. And the third thing, speaking about the female's brains and being able to juggle things, is any kind of content that celebrates her mastery over the many critical little things that she has to do. So I found, you know, I was trying to think of an example, and actually I wanted to share the example in the group, but it's gone, and I think it's been withdrawn because it's just too sexist. But does anybody remember? I don't think, Merelda, you would have had it in the States, or Carita in Australia. I don't know whether it kind of went global, but it was a Boots advert, and it was around Christmas, and it was 2 women bumping into each other on the street, friends, and They were both laden with shopping bags, and they were absolutely loaded with shopping bags. And the pair of them had these bright red, painful noses. Their eyes were streaming. They were like, oh, hello. They were full of sickness and cold, but they were so jolly and positive, and they were chatting, saying, oh, what are you up to? And they were saying, oh, I've just got to run around, I've got to pick up my kids from school, and then I'm going to go to the I've got to go to the grocery store, I'm picking up the last bit of presents, and then I'm going to wrap all the Christmas presents. And the other one was like coughing and sneezing, going, yeah, me too, I've got to do this. And they were literally describing all of these jobs that they had to do, totally ignoring the fact that they were both so ill. And then the punchline was, oh, how's your husband? And the other one says, oh, he's got a cold, he's in bed. And they both went, oh. And then the advert ended, and it was just about women who just, these amazing women who got it all together. And that really appeals to and celebrates the fact that women just have this ability to manage all these critical tasks, and they just get on with it. But I did Google it, I went on YouTube, and I actually got embroiled in went onto Mumsnet, because that was the only place I could find any relationship to it. And there was this whole thread toing and froing, arguing about it being utterly sexist and wrong and all of this kind of thing. But I was such a shame, because I was going to find it and put it in the group for you. So yeah, I did. I looked up Boots ad, 2 women with the cold. But so that again, when you're so when I did a webinar not so long ago, and I specifically on the webinar, at the beginning, in the introduction, I specifically said, I know you're so busy, you've probably got 1,000,001 things to do. I'm so grateful that you're here. Maybe you're cooking tea whilst you're listening to this. So I celebrated the fact that I knew that she's probably really busy. I pointed that out. And that's something that just is a trigger, a positive emotional trigger for women. That's like, you get me. So when you can celebrate the fact that she's busy, she's got 1,000,001 things on her plate. So you're grateful that she's reading your post, or you're just going to acknowledge that. Does that make sense? Cool. All right, how are we doing? Oh my God, we are so over time. All right. Is everyone all right for time, just to stay on for a little bit longer? Let's just give this a bit, 10 minutes, because I want to talk about the Amazon thing. So just very quickly then, let's look at how to craft. So that's kind of a bit of the how to craft some content that will resonate. Go into the Blab Academy. There's videos in there that will show you the framework. But when it comes to getting ideas and building that kind of content creativity, first thing I want to say is you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You do not have to reinvent the wheel. There is so much good content out there that you can borrow from. You can obviously not plagiarize, but you can start to use the words or other frameworks, things that appeal to you, that spoke to you, that might speak to your ideal client. So what I did, and a great thing to do, is to just create a folder, Google Doc folder, and every time you see an ad in your news feed that speaks to your ideal client, that speaks to you, then screenshot it, put it in the folder. Even if it's got a ton of engagement, even if the engagement is bad, people say, well, this is, still, if it's got engagement, there's something about it that is powerful. So you want to, think about, if you've got influencers, there's people like Sam Ovens, Amy Porterfield, Maria Forleo, Russ Ruffino, they're all marketing gurus, Russell Brunson. If you see any of them, their marketing in your feed, just screenshot it and chuck it in your folder, so you can start to see, oh, I love that format, it really spoke to me, I can kind of use that structure for my marketing. There's a gold mine of information right in your newsfeed every single day. So look out for these posts and just study them. what structure are they using? How are they using words and, you know, spaces and graphics and all of that kind of thing? All right, so the reason I asked you to find book reviews in your niche from Amazon is because best-selling books is because, I'm just giving it away now, you're going to go to the book reviews, because right in those book reviews is an absolute gold mine of inspiration, a constant source of content and inspiration that comes straight from the mouths of your ideal client. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can share the screen and hope that, let's have a look. Right, can you all see my screen? Yeah, so what I did here is I looked at Louise Hay, for example, some inspiration. Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. Everyone heard of that book? And I know it's a bestseller. I know it's huge. I know there's so many people that, for a lot of coaches, you know, in mind-body connection type of work, this book would probably be a really big bestseller source of inspiration for them. So what you can do is, when you have a bestseller in your niche, go check out the reviews. So these screenshots come straight from the Louise Hay You Can Heal Your Life review. So, you know, this first one just says, this is my favorite book. It's my go-to whenever I need to reorient my focus in life. So straight away there, let me just see if I can. Yeah, so I created a couple of headlines that I've taken straight from the words of the review. So sometimes we all need a hand to reorient our focus in life. You've plowed through many self-help books and still you find yourself struggling. And that's taken from the second review here, where she's just put, you know, it's by far the most comprehensive and helpful book of the many books I've plowed through at this time. So I've just plucked that language and used it. You've plowed through many self-help books and you still find yourself struggling. And then the third one, when life gets tough, it's easy to forget that you have all the potential within you to become the best person you're capable of being. And again, I've just pulled that out of the last line of the review. You know, can fulfill his potential to become the best person he is capable of being. So these reviews are gold for the exact words that people who are reading this stuff, who want to learn this stuff, are using. The next section I looked at was books for time management and productivity. So I don't know if I'm trying to make sure you can see everything. So here there's a couple of reviews here. The top one says, getting things done or even started is a curse for procrastinators. Procrastination is something we all deal with, and through this book you'll learn to manage blah blah blah. So here I've put, oh, the curse of procrastination, simply because that was the first line I read on this review. So, oh, the curse of procrastination. Are you someone who spends half a day procrastinating and the other half feeling guilty about all the things you didn't get done? And again, I just took it from the first line of the second review. At some point, we all feel guilty. So can you see how this is just an absolute goldmine for content for yourselves and in your particular niche? So you might think you're the only one with this problem, but the reality is we all get stuck. Trying to think whether I picked that up, where I picked that up from, but it's just literally plucked out from these reviews. So this last one, it's frustrating getting to the end of the day without having accomplished much, and yet you don't know why. And that's taken from this review here. Well, I have encouraging news for you, and then you can go into your content. And then, okay, just very quickly, because I'm aware that I'm keeping you over time, a couple of biases, again, for your to be very aware of when it comes to creating content, the anchoring bias. Oops, I'm going backwards. The anchoring bias is a term used in psychology to refer to the tendency of people to focus and rely too heavily on the first piece of information they see when it comes to making a decision. So, for example, if you saw a pair of jeans that cost £500 and then you saw a second pair of jeans that cost £100, you're prone to see the second pair as cheap. So what that means for you guys when you're looking at your marketing, if you're putting a price on your copy or in a post, you might want to compare it first to the cost of not taking action, for example, or the cost of, you know, so for example, when I worked with my Facebook ads lady and she helped me create a post, she said, you could spend thousands on XYZ, but why not instead join me for my, you know, boot camp for just £97? So we had the anchor of you could spend thousands in this course. And then as soon as she positioned my event immediately looks better value. Yeah. So here I've put, for coaching services, the anchor could be the cost of not taking action, or maybe the cost of figuring it out alone, or the cost of trying other services. So it doesn't have to be a pounds and pence figure either. It can just be the cost of staying small, figuring it out alone, and, you know, spending years, like you could talk about wasting years feeling like you're not living the life you know you deserve. Okay. The next bias is the bandwagon bias. So as much as we resist it, we're influenced by what the crowd is doing, what's trending, and what fads are in. So us humanoids hate to think that we're A, missing out on something, and B, that we're alone in our action taking. So this was the original one. 9 out of 10 dentists agree. So when you see that kind of copy, then you think, right, well, it must be true then. So you want to start thinking about putting things, if you've got a call to action post, don't be left behind is a good one. As enjoyed by hundreds of customers, join our growing community, proven time and time again. So those kind of statements really play into the bandwagon bias, that we don't want to be left out. And we don't want to feel alone in our action taking. And this one is my favorite bias. So the superiority bias is a term that refers to the cognitive bias wherein a person assumes themselves superior in abilities and qualities than the average person. So we have this inbuilt bias that kicks in when we're reading about some marvelous results that other people have gotten from a product or a course, and even though we're interested in buying it, we get this little voice in our head that says it won't work for me. So it can work the negative way as well. It won't work for me. There's something different about me. I've tried everything on the market. Nothing works for me. So even if you believe it's a negative reason, you're stepping out from the crowd and declaring, I'm not your average Joe, so it won't work for me. I need something even more special. Does that make sense? So if you see all these amazing testimonials, you still won't buy it because you just think it won't work for me. So how do we overcome that for our audience? Well, because we know our ideal client, we can address this by saying, even if, and then we address the objection. Even if demonstrates an empathic understanding of your ideal client's deepest fears and objections. So even if you've tried everything before, and I know you have, even if you don't think this is going to work for you, it will because whatever. Even if right now you feel too, you know, whatever, but even if speaks to that superiority bias and pulls the rug on that internal barrier to purchasing. So this is why the benefits, barriers and beliefs post format is important, that I've shared with you in the Blab Academy. So in that video, I'll show you how to create the post where you've got 3 lists. So I'm going to whiz through this right now because it's all in the Blab Academy. But you've got 3 lists that enable you to create a headline that says how to get this amazing result without having to do this thing you don't want to do, even if, and you address the limiting belief. All right, so and then the next post is the pain impact solution post. So you highlight a pain point, you agitate it. So this is where you describe your ideal client's pain better than they can, and then you solve it. So just very quickly, when it comes to agitating, and when I say when you can describe your ideal client's pain better than they can, you stand out as the automatic solution. So I'm just going to stop sharing because that's the last bit. Stop share. You're all still here. Good. I couldn't see you for a moment. Oh, Creed's had to go. Yeah, so the pain, agitate, solve post. The agitate section is where you describe the impact of the pain point. So, you know, you might, and again, I've created the pre-recorded video in the Blab Academy, but if you say, you know, are you feeling overwhelmed? Overwhelm is a huge word. It covers a gamut of emotions and feelings. So, but when you know your ideal client, you can describe the overwhelm as it pertains and relates to her. So, for example, overwhelm for a stressed out mum who has, you know, children and is a stay-at-home mum but runs the PTA and all of that is a very different experience to overwhelm for the high achiever in corporate, and what thoughts are going through their the 2 different minds. So when you can isolate how overwhelm really feels for that individual, that's the agitate section. And you know what it's like if you've got, and I know this is not just me, you've got some dodgy symptom, a rash or something, and you go Google it, or a pain or something, and you will Google your symptoms. And as you read, you find an article, you find something where it's describing those symptoms, and you're thinking, oh my God, that's spot on. You'll also read a few extra symptoms that you weren't aware of, but you're aware of them now, and you think, oh my God, they're even describing symptoms I didn't even know, and now I know that, now I'm more aware of it. What happens is you automatically continue reading because you think that article is going to contain the solution, because they've described the pain and the symptoms better than you could have done yourself, and they've added a few more that you didn't even know you had. And so you read that article hooked for the solution, and you trust that article and you believe that the solution is the right one. We all do it because if somebody can describe the pain and frustration better than you can, they automatically stand out as the solution. And so this is why with the pain, agitate and solve post, that gives you so much power in terms of leveraging you as the expert and you as the solution. Make sense? Cool. Okay, so I'm really so sorry I've gone so over. I get so excited with this stuff because this is the kind of stuff I love. But so if you've got any questions, please tag me in the post. Simona, go for it if you're all right.
Just a very, very quick one.
Yeah.
You know, this very last one, the pain point. How does that sit with not starting your posts with negative words? Like if you're describing a pain point, you would be using words that resonate with that pain.
Yeah. So it's a different kind of post.
Okay.
So you've got to think about all these posts serve a different purpose. So the pain, agitate, solve post is one that enables you to stand out and give value. So for example, you're going to highlight a pain at the beginning. You know, is this you? Do you feel this? And then you're going to agitate it, and then you're going to solve it. This is the 5 steps to solving it. I did one this week about, when you're on the
bottom,
greatest gift. Yeah, hitting rock bottom is your greatest gift. So that serves a purpose in terms of giving a ton of value. other posts, so you've got lots of different types of posts. You're not just going to hammer them every single day with, you know, describing the pain and frustration. It's a variation.
Okay.
You're varying things.
Yeah.
So you're going to have some inspirational posts. Whenever it comes to what you do, maybe, you know, the broader picture of what you do, then it's focusing on the outcomes. And the positive outcome. So it's just simple tweaks. So you might think, yay, beat the competition, that's really cool. And as you write that post, just sit with it for a bit and think, is beating the competition really what I want to say, or do I want to say winning at life, crossing the finish line? So that's all I'm saying, is just when you're writing your posts, they all have a different purpose.
Yeah.
But just look at, is this positioning my brand in the best way? Am I solving the problem? Am I answering a question? Am I inspiring? So, you know, it's varying your posts.
Thank you.
Okay, guys. So Christine's having to go. So I'm going to wrap this up now, because obviously it's been a long call. I appreciate you all stopping on. So watch the videos in the Blab Academy, structure your posts. If you want to kind of play and write some and share them in the group, then please do. We can all kind of give our input and support one another. But yeah, absolutely, this is, you know, this is where we need to start seeing you getting really, really visible. All right, cool. All right, ladies, thank you so much.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. I'll speak to you all soon. Bye for now.
Bye.